guys, my name is Maddie, or Books with Maddie, and today I'm doing the Evermore Book Tag. Okay, so around the end of last year, I was tagged in a bunch of tags, and then I just never got around to doing them because I was focused on doing end of the year videos and stuff. So I'm going to be doing a bunch of tags in the next couple weeks that I was tagged in, but this one I was super excited about. I was tagged by Charlotte, or Charlotte Reads, and yeah, I was super excited. This is a tag that was based off of the Taylor Swift album Evermore. It was created by Enchanted Reader, and I will have her original video as well as Charlotte's linked in my description below. Okay, so each of the prompts is based off of a song, based off of the vibe of the song, or the lyrics of the song. Okay, so Willow is the first song, and the prompt is a book that is a masterpiece. I'm realizing that in the video that is directly before this one, I also called this book a masterpiece, but it is Bloodwater Paint by Joy McCullough, which I rave about constantly, but a lot of you haven't read it yet, so I have to keep talking about it. It's not my fault. This is a book that is written in verse, and it follows the painter Artemisia Gentileschi as she stands up to her rapist and fights for justice. And it is incredible, and I loved it, and it's beautiful and wonderful, and one of the best books I've ever read in my entire life, so please pick it up. Okay, so the next song is Champagne Problems, and the prompt is a book that caught you off guard. So I wasn't quite sure what this meant, caught you off guard, I guess a book that surprised you, but is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. So I went with The Vegetarian by Han King, which caught me off guard in a lot of ways. This book was just super odd. Basically, it follows a woman who has had this dream where she's walking through meat, raw meat or something like that, and she wakes up and she's like, oh my gosh, I have to be a vegetarian. So she stops eating meat, she stops feeding her husband meat, she starts kind of starving herself. Her family's like, what's going on? And then it kind of goes from there. It definitely caught me off guard. I definitely didn't know, when I turned the page what was going to happen. There was absolutely nothing predictable about this book. And so I think that qualifies as catching me off guard. It was absolutely a wild ride. Beginning of it was cool. Enjoyed it. It was a good kind of weird. The second two-thirds, the last two-thirds of the book were just a different level of weirdness that I could not connect to. So if you're looking for something super weird that will definitely catch you off guard, I recommend The Vegetarian by Han King. Next, Gold Rush, and the prompt is a book with a gold cover. I think the goldest cover I have is King of Scars. It's literally blinding, by Lee Bardugo, which I haven't read yet, surprisingly, and I'm going to soon. I can't really tell you what it's about because I haven't read it. And I also haven't read the synopsis. I know it's about Nikolai, but if you haven't read Six of Crows, then you don't know who that is. Or if you haven't read the Grishaverse trilogy, you don't know who that is. So that's not helpful. But yeah, there's a gold cover for you. Next is 'Tis the Season, and it's a winter or Christmas book. I think I only have one book that specifically centers around Christmas time, and that is In a Holidays by Christina Lauren, which is a really cool book because it's not only just a wintry Christmas book or a romance, it's actually a time travel book. So the main character, Malin, gets stuck in a time loop where she's living the same week over and over again until she can get it right. And yeah, it's very good, and I highly recommend. Next is the song Tolerate It, and the prompt for that is a problematic book. This one felt a little weird because I don't want to specifically shout out problematic books on my channel. So I'm going with one that I had to read for a class this semester and is a debatably problematic book. I personally consider it problematic, but I've heard arguments against that, and so I thought I would just bring up this one that kind of requires a discourse instead of one that's just blatantly problematic. And that is The Brief and Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde by Junot Diaz. This basically follows the character Oscar Wilde, kind of follows his entire family tree. He has a Dominican family living in the US, and his family in the past living in the Dominican. The author has a lot of accusations against him of sexual assault, which adds on to the problematicness of this book, but in the book there is just extreme toxic masculinity, blatant sexism, and the defense for this is that it is Dominican masculinity which breeds those characteristics, and that the characters aren't a reflection of the author, even though the author continually compares himself to the narrator, who is the most forefront leader of sexism and toxic masculinity in the book. It's really hard to say because it's hard to say if Junot Díaz is endorsing these characteristics or doing these characteristics in his day-to-day life, or if it's just the narrative of the book. Either way, I didn't like the narrative. It was super uncomfortable to read. It was disgusting, frankly. Wouldn't recommend this book at all. Even though it has a lot of literary merit to it and it's won a Pulitzer Prize, I don't think that it deserves it, to be honest, and that's my hot take of the day. I was extremely put off by all of the characters. Oscar he's a nerd. He likes things like comics and Star Trek and things that you would classically describe as nerdy. And he's overweight, and so he is seen as this kind of really almost caricature, I would say, and he's unable to get girls and sleep with girls, and so he's seen as this like cute character who like, oh, he's so sweet, like he loves girls but he can't get them. I had no sympathy for him. He was still sexist. He still saw women as conquests. Like, it wasn't any better. I could talk about this book forever. It was so frustrating to hear even my professor be like, oh, Oscar was such a sweet kid. He still objectified women on the daily. It's just he couldn't sleep with them, so everybody thought he was innocent. Anyway, this is my hot take of the day. Problematic book. Discuss in the comments below if you have read it and are educated about it. Next, we have No Body, No Crime, which is my favorite song off the album. So good. And the prompt is a murder, investigation book. I don't read a lot of mystery, investigation books, but I have one that I don't think I've ever recommended before. I don't think I've ever recommended this book before on my channel. I've talked about it, I think, but I've never, like, specifically recommended it. And that is All the Truth That's in Me by Julie Berry. If you've heard of Julie Berry, it's because she wrote Lovely War, my favorite book of all time. And this basically, it takes place in like an unknown time period / place, and Julie Berry did that in order to have a focus on the characters, but it gives me like Jamestown vibes, like 1600s, like Pilgrim vibes. And basically is a romance mystery combination story where it follows this girl whose name is Judith, I believe, and she, a couple of years before this story takes place, was kidnapped, and she comes back but her tongue is cut off, and also her friend was murdered also. So there's the murder mystery part of it. Also mystery of who kidnapped her, where they are now. Also she's in love with this boy named Lucas, and basically it's about learning to use her voice because she's so ashamed of how she sounds with her tongue cut off, and her mother kind of like banishes her, like, don't talk to people, like, I'm ashamed of you because your tongue is cut off, even though it wasn't her fault that her tongue got cut off. She got literally kidnapped. It's about a story of like finding your voice, about romance, and about who done the killing. So there you go. Next, the song is Happiness, and the prompt is a book about hope. I chose The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. I feel like a lot of books that center around war have the same kind of theme of hope, but this one I feel like specifically, like, I really felt that with this book because the characters were so, what's the word, like, they were so determined to continue fighting and hoping, and resilient is the word I'm looking for. They were so resilient. You could like very viscerally feel the hope that these characters embodied. And I really felt that. Like, I felt that that was a very prominent part of this book. So yeah, I thought that hope was a very prevalent theme in this book. Okay, the next is Dorothea, and that prompt is a book to movie adaptation. So my favorite book to movie adaptation is the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society. This is a epistolary novel, so it is entirely written in letters, and it basically follows this woman who is, she's an author. She's working on like a new project where she's interviewing people from the island of Guernsey right after World War II, and she starts like really connecting with their letters, and she ends up traveling to the island and meeting everybody there, and it's just so unbelievably wholesome and beautiful and wonderful, and I highly, highly recommend both the book and the movie. I so rarely like movie adaptations, but I thought this was done so, so well, and I do still think that the book is better than the movie, but still the movie was really, really well done. The next song is Coney Island, and the prompt is a book that brings back memories. For this one, I chose The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. This book has so much nostalgia attached to it. I read it when I was in elementary school, 4th, 5th grade, and it was my favorite book of all time. This was the first book that I felt like so passionately about and really ignited my love for reading, so I have so many memories attached to it. I just recently reread it last year, I think, and it just brought back so many memories, and yeah, so very nostalgic. Okay, the next one is Ivy, the song Ivy, which I think is my second favorite song off the album. The prompt is a book you can't help but love or a guilty pleasure book. I don't really like the idea of like guilty pleasure books. I think there's like, I think it kind of like projects the idea that somebody should be ashamed about the books that they read, and I don't think that that's necessarily positive. Like, I don't think anybody should feel ashamed for reading any type of book. Like, you can read what you want. And in addition, I feel like it's specifically targeted at the romance community, which like is not good. I feel like. So I don't really like that prompt per se. I don't really feel guilty about any of the books that I enjoy. I actively love many romance novels. So yeah, I'm gonna use this opportunity to hype some romance novels that I really loved and that I don't feel guilty about loving. So yeah. The first one is Taking It Danny Brown by Talia Hibbert, which is one of my favorite books that I read in 2020. It's super diverse. It talks about grief. It is written by a Black author, and it has 2 people of color as main characters, and it talks about a lot about relationship anxiety and stuff like that. It was super diverse, and I really loved it. Next, I'll talk about Red, White, and Royal Blue, which is a romance between the first son of America. Wait, is that what they're called? The first son of America? Why did I say that so confidently? I have no idea if that's what he's called. Maybe. The son of the president and the Prince of England, whose name is Henry, and it's a romance between the 2 of them, and very much loved it. Very cute, very good stuff. Yeah. And then lastly, another favorite that I read in 2020, which was Beach Read by Emily Henry, which is a romance between 2 writers, 2 authors, and it's very cute and lovely, and you should read it because it's amazing. Okay, the next song is Cowboy Like Me, and the prompt is a book that you didn't expect to love but did. And my answer for this one is Our Dark Duet by Victoria Schwab. This was another one of my favorite books of 2020, and I didn't really like this Savage song at first. I had a really hard time getting through it, so I didn't know what exactly to expect from Our Dark Duet, but I definitely didn't expect it to be one of my favorite books of 2020. This takes place in a world where there are monsters, and the only way to combat these monsters is through music, and it's just such a cool concept, and I really enjoyed it, and yeah, incredible characters, incredible storyline. The writing is phenomenal. I just highly recommend this. If you haven't read it yet, you should do that. The next song is Long Story Short, which I think is another one of my favorites off the album, and the prompt is a book under 300 pages, or a short book. And I chose Women in Power by Mary Beard. This is just a little over 100 pages, and it is like a little manifesto collection of essays by Mary Beard about women and power. Basically, it talks a lot about the structure of power and a lot about speech and how speech is designed in the favor of men and things like that. It was very, very interesting and super short, super easy to get through. I just really, really enjoyed it. So yeah. The next song is Marjorie, and the prompt is a biography, and how could I not recommend Becoming by Michelle Obama. Michelle Obama is my favorite person ever to have ever existed and who will ever exist. I love Michelle Obama so much. She's the best, okay? She's literally the best. And so this is my recommendation for you. Please read it if you haven't. I know like this isn't underhyped or anything because this is one of the best books ever. But seriously, this book is like so good. Please read it. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk about Michelle Obama. I'll be here for questions at the end. The next song is Closure, and the prompt is your favorite last book in a series. I don't read series, is the thing. I don't ever read series. So how can I tell you? Because the thing is, I've never read the last book in a series that I've liked. And that's the truth, T. I always like the last book the worst. Wait, that's not true. Wait a second. So I'm a dumb boy. And I forgot that Ruin Rising was my favorite book out of the Grishaverse trilogy. and I forgot about it. Just even though it's literally right there. This was the best book. Literally come for me, please. I will argue that this is the best book in the series to my death. Everyone else, I see you all. You hate this book, and I don't know why. It's superior to the other two. Siege and Storm, absolute crap. Shadow and Bone, completely average. This one, 5 stars, absolute gold, amazing, 10 stars, okay? Come for me in the comments, please. If I ever get canceled, I want it to be over my love for this book, okay? This is the best book in the series, and I am never going to change my mind about that. So, I feel so strongly. I cannot believe I forgot about this. This is my new hot take of this video. Ruin and Rising was the best of the series. Period. Come for me. This is kind of ending on a sad note, but the last song is Evermore, and the prompt is a book that was hard to get through, or wait, no. A book that was painful to get through. I didn't know if this meant, like, literally it was so sad that it was hard to get through. There are many I could choose for that, but this one is just, like, a book that I had high oh, there are 2 for this. Okay, I have to do 2 for this, but these 2 books were super highly anticipated books of mine, and they just fell completely flat. Didn't like them, and they were just literally painful to get through. First one is Champion by Marie Lu, which is painful to speak out loud, but I mean, I feel like at this point we all know that this book was not very good, and specifically the ending, which we don't speak about, we will not speak about. This is my answer. Number 1, but I have another one that's even better. Okay, the second one is Blood and Honey by Shelby Mahurian. No one is surprised this book was trash, and I mean that in the nicest way possible, because I've talked about this before, but I understand the pressure that Shelby Mahurian was going through writing this. Like, she was being compared to, like, big people like Sarah J. Maas and Lee Bardugo, so, like, there was probably a lot of pressure to make this book perfect, and so I understand that, like, it just missed the mark, okay? It just missed the mark, and it was absolutely painful to get through. I hated every second of it. That's so intense, but, like, it wasn't good. So, yeah, those are my 2 answers for the last one, Evermore, a book that was painful to get through. Both of those were quite painful, and I think we all are in agreement on that. I feel like that isn't really a hot take. I feel like those 2 are pretty widely known, as no one agreed with the writing in those books. But with that, I think that is the end of this video. I really hope you enjoyed. Let me know what your favorite songs from Evermore were below. I know this is super late, so I'm not going to tag anybody because I feel like everybody who's wanted to do it has already done it. But if you are a person who wants to do this but didn't, I tag you. Person out there who didn't do it but wants to, you're tagged. If you'd like to keep up with me, my Twitter, my Instagram, and my Goodreads are all linked in the description below, so check those out if you'd like to. But other than that, I hope you have a great day, I hope you have a great week, and I hope you have a great life, and I will see you very, very soon. Bye-bye!